And right off the top, we have a little bit of breaking NFL news, and that is that DK Metcalf, wide receiver in Seattle, has requested a trade from the Seahawks. And not only that, sometimes we hear, like Myles Garrett, right, request a trade. The team is like, no, we're keeping you. Seattle says they're going to honor it, and they're going to try their best to work out a deal to get him out of Seattle, essentially. So with that being said, Mike, any intel on this Patriots-wise? Do you think, this could be a fit here? I know there's been rumors lately that they could be in the market, whether it's free agency or a trade for a, top-tier wide receiver one. I know that our colleagues Doug and Andrew reported that Pats had previously kicked the tires on DK. So just thoughts on this one off the top, and if you think he could potentially be a fit in New England.
I'd be surprised if they don't make the phone call. I think they have to, based on how their wide receiver room has shaken out and maybe some of the options that they were hoping for. T. Higgins primarily at this point not being available. And then, of course, the medical questions about Chris Godwin and what that leg looks like should he get the free agency as well. But if you don't, then what are you doing exactly? And I'm not Team DK. Like, he's not one of my favorite guys. I don't think he has gotten to the place that he was supposed to get to, or we thought he was going to get to as a receiver. And I sort of have gotten some intel from a couple people since that news came out, a short time ago, where it's like, he's not a number one. Now, obviously he'd be a number one for the Patriots, but sort of like that thing where, for as physical as he is, he's got this body that's ridiculous. He doesn't often win jump balls, which doesn't make a lot of sense. He tends to give up on some plays. And again, just hasn't developed as a receiver. And I think, as one of them told me, look at what Seattle did in the second half of last year. It was JSN, Jackson Smith-Njigba. They were feeding him, not DK Metcalf. So they were almost signaling like, we're not going to pay you what it is you're going to be wanting. And, he's entering the last year of his contract. So he's going to want at 27, won't be 28, I think, until mid-December. He's going to want that $30+ million deal. Who's going to give it to him?
I'm not going to pretend like I'm watching all of Seattle's games or anything like that, but it feels like anytime I do watch, DK is having some kind of mental fart, whether it's like on the field, showing a little bit too much emotion, which is fine. But like when you're getting called for taunting, when you're getting unsportsmanlike conduct, when you're getting ejected at times, like this is the kind of behavior you'll tolerate if a guy's dominant when he's on the field. And does he dictate coverages? Yes, he's too talented of a player to ignore. But at the same time, if you're going to chase this guy, you're going to pay him, you're going to give up draft capital. At some point, you'd like for the diva stuff to also come with some consistent plays. So I'm curious. We know the Patriots really want this number one receiver. How much does the personality in the locker room fit factor into that? Because there are some talented players on the market, like A.J. Brown. Even if he's, a personality, he's worked with Vrabel, so that's going to work out. But for the less familiar guys, are they willing to say, we need a number one so badly, we're going to trust that Mike Vrabel can make it work? Or is that something that's in deep consideration?
I mean, I think they've signaled to you that they want to have a stronger locker room. And I think that is having two guys that have been in there with me. I think the locker room has been lacking the last couple of years, and certainly losing adds to that. But I think there were some guys that they invested in that are, I call them mercenaries, and I get it's a business and all, but like when Devon Gottschall is telling you after a game in which they gave up 193 yards rushing to Miami that they played good run defense to the last drive, what are we talking about? Or you lose 40-7 to the Chargers and you say the same thing just in general. They couldn't really run the ball against us. They didn't have to, buddy. They didn't have to because you guys sucked and they just chewed you up in the pass game. Like if they wanted to run for 150, I'm sure they could have. They just didn't need to. So I think I signaled him out because he's more vocal, but I think there were several players like that just don't, they're not a foxhole guy and they need to find more of those guys. And is DK that? I don't know. I know that the Seattle people love Tyler Lockett. Now Tyler Lockett's not the same physical talent as DK Metcalf, but like the tributes for him when everybody realized his last game, was coming at the end of the season, like likely not to bring him back. And the comments from McDonald, from teammates, Geno Smith, like just fawned over the guy, like unbelievable teammate, unbelievable player, unbelievable guy. He's 32. So he's the kind of guy, like if you could give him his personality and put it into DK, but DK's been around him for a few years. Why didn't it rub off? Well, because this is the way he sees himself. So that's a question they have to answer. But again, what if you do it and you say, we're going to roll the dice. You're going to come in here for a year. We're not giving you the extension. Now, I don't even know if he would want to do that, but let's see if you fit and let's see if you can make it work here. And if you're the guy that you think you are and you act that way here, then we reward you. But you know as well as I do, most of these guys, if you're going to trade me, I'm not going there unless you do something about my contract. So probably it's a pipe dream, but that's kind of how I might approach it.
They all want that pen to paper immediately, right? And you also don't blame them, but they've paid their dues, they want to do their thing and what have you. But with all of these bigger name guys, people talking AJ Brown recently, T Higgins obviously is the name that's been floated out there. It feels like there's sort of an excuse tagged on everyone of why they won't go after this guy. And at the end of the day, number one wide receivers are number one or fringe number ones like DK, and you got to go try and get those guys.